Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk about the latest with Hurricane Idalia, who has hit Georgia and Florida. We'll give you the latest about that situation. Also, Rudy Giuliani has not won his defamation lawsuit against two black Georgia poll workers. We'll talk a little bit about the implications of that on the larger landscape of his legal troubles. And then, should Donald Trump be on the ballot? This is a question I've been posing from the very beginning, folks. And now it looks like even some Republicans in one state is asking the question, which may lead to other states doing the same. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And Simone Biles comes back after a 2-year break and wins it all. She has become the record-winning winning 8 national championships. We'll talk about how she is making it her own. Folks, stay with us. We got a lot to talk about in today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, happy Wednesday. That's right, folks. It is Wednesday. It's officially hump day. It's a day that, gets us through the middle of the week. And so I hope your Wednesday has been good thus far. All right, folks, look, we are streaming live. We got a great show for you. Wednesday, we always bring that heat. Got my sister from another mother, Suzette Speaks, is going to be joining us in a few moments. So, we're going to have some great topics for you. So that's why we encourage you to make sure y'all stay tuned. More importantly, let your friends and family know that we are on live. We are streaming live on all different platforms. Take a look at the bottom of the screen here, folks. That's where you can find us. You can find us on our home website, the blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com. Also, you can find us on Amazon News or your Fire TV. Just let Alexa know that you want to see Black Star Network, and boom, we'll pop right up. You can also find us on Plex TV, where we are being streamed there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you got Androids, if you got an Apple phone, whatever your device is, you can download us. You can find us on all those platforms. Plus, we are also streaming live right now on Facebook, on your social media page of Facebook right there under Roland Martin. And this is where you can join the crew at on the YouTube chat. The YouTube chat for the now famous legendary Culture Crew chat, folks, where we got a Culture Crew members who have been riding with us from the very beginning, new Culture Crew members that have been checking in with us because they want to be a part of the conversation. Again, this is a space where what you have to say about the discussions matter. And we want to hear from you, directly from you. So make sure you join us as a Culture Crew member. Join us in the chat on YouTube under Roland Martin. Check us out again on YouTube on Roland Martin. Let's do a little roll call, shall we? Shall we do a little roll call? Yeah, a big shout out to my Culture Crew, man. Pastor Damon Blissett, pastor of the Block Church, because he will block that ass. Pastor Damon, thank you so much, brother. You always riding with us, being there from the very beginning. Brian Christian checking in. Good afternoon, big brother Brian. Good afternoon. Tiana, hey, Tiana. Good afternoon. Happy Wednesday, Tiana. Thank you for checking in. Robin, hello, Robin. She says hello to the Culture Crew. Robin Welch, good to see you. Jacqueline Boateng, hello, Jacqueline. Good to connect with you once again. My sister, Pretty Brown Mimi, 726. Happy Wednesday, Mimi. Thank you so much. Boom, there we go. Who we got? We got New Flowers in the chat. New Flower, welcome to the chat. Welcome to the culture. We love to hear from you. Hopefully you got something to say for us today, New Flower. So thank you so much. So folks are checking in, folks. Of course, my sister Suzette Speaks going to be jumping in the chat. Y'all know how she do. She like to stir up the controversy in the chat. You know what I mean? Get everybody talking and laughing and mad at something she said. So she's checking in a few minutes. Janelle Fields. Janelle, thank you so much. Good afternoon, Janelle. Thank you so much for joining us there in the chat. Folks, again, we're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube page. That's where you can find the great Culture Crew. All right, folks, let's jump right into it. First, let's get the latest about this situation with Hurricane Idalia. This is a serious, serious hurricane that has hit the state of Florida, and I want to bring my sister Suzette Speaks into this so that way we can get a better understanding of what's going on with this hurricane. First and foremost, she's an attorney. She is a host of the Suzette Speaks show on YouTube. She is an advocate. She's a politico.
Hey, thanks, Farajii. I appreciate you, brother. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, Suzette.
Controversy. I'm gonna try to not stir up too much today, but it's always fun. Always look forward to Wednesdays. And shout out to all of the culture crew watching live or team replay.
Right. There it is. There it is. All right, Suzette. First and foremost, I'm happy that you're safe because it sounds like from this side of the earth, it sounds like this hurricane is going to be a massive hurricane. I think they kicked it up to a Category 2 storm hurricane at this point. What's going on with Hurricane Idalia? And more importantly, what's happening with folks in Florida right now?
Yeah, this has been a massive storm. The governor did declare a state of emergency nice and early. So thankfully, people had a lot of warning. This affected the other side of the state, not Miami, not my East Coast side, but we are praying for and have sent actual support over to the Big Bend area. If you're not familiar with that side of Florida, it's where the Panhandle, meets the peninsula. So we're talking about Tallahassee being our capital is the area's largest city, but of course we have a lot of low-lying coastal areas around that side of the state. So we're talking about swamps. We're talking about, low country, if you will, right? A lot of seaside towns, thinking about places like Cedar Key and Perry, Florida. There are a lot of live oaks and beautiful trees. It's a very woodsy trees side of the state. They are known for their springs, underwater springs. I think we have the largest contiguous underwater spring in the country in that area. It's a 32-mile underwater cavern of fresh water. So the ground is stony as well as very soft and muddy. I know they are always experiencing, for example, in Tallahassee, I lived there for a couple of years, sinkholes and things like this. So the ground is very susceptible to movement. But of course, what kills and what injures most people during hurricanes is the storm surge. So hopefully the people in the low-lying areas in and around the Big Bend got out. But if not, we're going to see a lot more damage reports coming in because it's still very early. Right now, the king tide is what is affecting folks on that side from maybe Tampa on up, Clearwater really on up, hitting the Big Bend. It's when the moon and the high tide, moon is closest to us. So king tide even goes probably 2 or 3 feet above a high tide. So not only do you have the storm surge water that is sitting there, the rain that has accumulated, but also you're dealing with the king tide. So we expect to see a lot more damage reports. Some places have reports of as high as 9-foot storm surge, which can cover a building, cover a car, of course, take life. So far, I've only heard reports of 2 deaths. But I mean, obviously every death is tragic, but knowing what this could be, I still think there are a lot of areas they haven't even gotten to yet, though, with the high water vehicles, etc. So this is it hit early this morning as a Cat 3. It's still impacting people throughout Georgia now as a Cat 2. And so we're going to see, the tornadoes and the storm surge are the most deadliest components. Of course, in Georgia, you'll see more of a wind event than a water event, but still we have a lot to discover about the impact it had here in Florida.
That is, and I'm so happy that you gave us that report. And as you can see here, folks, this is just from the latest coming from CNN as we look at this situation down in Florida. Very, very serious situation, to say the least, as Suzette pointed out. Hitting the other side of the state of Florida. I know Jacksonville is already been under, and this is something that our producer Maddie just mentioned to me. She said Jacksonville has already been trying to recover from previous storms. Now this one comes into the path. And I know Jacksonville is the site of what just happened with that racially motivated shooting. So there are a lot of people that are trying to figure out what's going to be happening with Jacksonville. Talk to us as much as you know, Suzette, about the city of Jacksonville.
Well, Jacksonville has had the lesser impact of this particular storm. I would probably say the Tampa Bay area is far more impacted when it comes to that water. Now, Tampa I would say, if you want to put it in air quotes, got lucky the last couple of large storms, because with the rotation of the hurricanes that came previously, Tampa Bay actually went out to the ocean. So people were walking in the middle of Tampa Bay. So this storm had the opposite effect. It actually as normally is seen during hurricanes, drew water into Clearwater, into St. Pete, into Tampa. I was watching reports earlier today that showed, the bridge that connects Tampa and St. Pete, 275, had about 5 feet of water above its normal level. It was covering one half of the road in a 2-lane major highway, basically thoroughfare, was impassable on one side, and has now gone back down to 3 feet. But of course, like I said, the king tide is also moving. But yeah, Jacksonville will probably have what most of the interior Florida experience, which is much more of a wind event. Of course, the tides, even here in South Florida, because we are dealing with king tide flooding because of climate change anyway here on a normal basis. But we were giving out sandbags here for low-lying businesses, because all throughout even the Keys, it changes the weather pattern, it changes the ocean pattern all around the edges of the state. And of course, we're a majority coastline, right? So Jacksonville will probably have had some of those same impacts. But we're looking really on the West Coast, the Gulf Coast, and up into what they call the Nature Coast, which is throughout Tallahassee and that Big Bend area, Steenhatchee, these type of, they're named after, Native American words and peoples that call them, by their, indigenous names. So Steenhatchee is, again, a river who has seen 9 feet above its normal level in this storm. I don't think they even began to see what really has happened, especially in these low-lying areas like a Cedar Key and again, parts that lead up to the Steenhatchee River. Is kind of scary. And this part of Florida has not seen this level of a hurricane in almost 150 years. So not that we are all, complacent. We get used to it, right? It almost hits us and doesn't hit us and those type of things. So I'm hoping and praying that most of the people that lived in those Keys and barrier islands and low-lying beachfront areas were able to get out. If you weren't in a 2-story, this could be quite tragic, like we saw, closer to, our border with like the Pensacola area and the Panama City area just a couple years ago. So we're still waiting on reports. It's still early and places are still flooded, quite frankly. So it'll be a while before we know the true damage.
Pretty Brown Mimi, 726 Mimi. I know you and your peoples are down there in Jacksonville, and I hope y'all are staying safe. You said, yes, we're still recovering in Jacksonville on so many fronts. Light rain here with the 4 green hearts. So Mimi, thank you so much for checking in. My sister Anastasia Pageant, Anastasia, you checked in and said, yes, it is on its way to Atlanta, Georgia right now. It moved through Valdosta, Georgia, Perry, GA. It hit the small town right now. So she's talking about some of the smaller towns right there in southern Georgia. Absolutely, absolutely. So, we're going to have to keep our eyes on this situation. But if you're in that area, folks, or if you have family in that area, please check on them, call them, reach out as much as you can. If not, try to see if, try to stay safe, try to follow the directions of your state, folks. This is not the time. And I've seen some wild stuff on the net just a couple of days ago, Suzette, where people are still thinking that they can go one-on-one with Mother Nature. I would not advise that. I don't think that it's not a game. These things, when you have these weather events of this nature, it can become very, very dangerous. And essentially, you could lose your life thinking that you playing around and Mother Nature ain't. So please, folks, follow the instructions from your state officials on emergency preparedness, on everything from dealing with storms of this nature, and stay close to your friends and family, and then just check on them as much as you can. Suzette, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's jump into some politics as we talk about the latest around Rudy Giuliani and how he had tried to file a defamation lawsuit against 2 Black Georgia workers. But guess what? They fired back and he lost. We'll talk a little bit more about that case as we get the latest on that and so much more. Folks, stay with us. We just getting cooking here in the first hour of The Culture. Anthony DeMarco, you checked in. Thank you so much, Anthony. You said this is so cool here. Of course it's cool here, man. It's the culture. This is the Black Star Network. This is how we do each and every day. So make sure you stay tuned, Anthony. But thank you so much for your support. Folks, stay with us. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation, folks, as we're streaming live on blackstarnetwork.com, Amazon News on your Fire TV, Plex TV. We're streaming live on Facebook right now. We're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube page, where you can join us for the conversation and be a Culture Crew member for the day. All right, folks. Let's talk politics right now with my sister Suzette Speaks as we talk about the latest around the cohorts of former President Donald Trump, Suzette, who seems to, yesterday we talked about Harrison Floyd. I had to get in, I had to say something about Harrison Floyd.
The only black man left in jail out of the 19 co-conspirators. Okay. Yes. Okay. I won't get into it.
And you know what? You need to tell your the sister, don't ever smile like that in a mugshot again.
Okay, exactly. The publicist, yes. Oh my goodness. But they gonna learn today. My mom was
look, we weren't the only one going in on Harrison Floyd. I've seen some other people going in.
Absolutely, as we should. Again, there's an old school saying that said there's different rules for cats and dogs. So he done learned. It might be a little different for you, brother, but okay, we're gonna leave him alone. We're gonna
leave him alone. All right, let's go back to one of our main punching bags, Rudy Giuliani. Let me tell you something. If this man has let me make sure I'm clear about this, Suzette. And this is, has he been completely disbarred at this point, or is this
his bar license, or has been suspended? New York and DC, and again, pending losses. And it's really sad. America's mayor, as he was once known, has been shown to be, a downright liar, as this lawsuit has now shown. He was trying the judge, and we can lay it out, but there's so many parts of it that now it doesn't bode well for him in this other case in the Atlanta area. So we know about the 2 Georgia election workers that we've been talking about, holding them up. Thank you again for your service to Shay Moss and her mom, Miss Ruby Freeman, who were volunteers during the Georgia election and who Rudy Giuliani and the former president, Mr. Trump, and others took square aim at to call them into question, to call what they were doing as they were performing their job dutifully, to kind of insinuate and incite and downright lie on them and say that they were nefariously trying to cheat and steal votes and change votes. And again, I remember the words he used, the analogy he used, that they were passing votes around as if they were passing crack or heroin or cocaine. I'm like, what are we saying? It's the dog whistle for saying those Black people are doing something wrong and they stole the election from you, whoever you is. So I applaud these ladies for taking their case to court, right? And suing them libel in the Washington, D.C. District Court. This has been ongoing, and we recently, talked about it here on the show, how he admitted, right, in his pleadings and said he is not going to deny the charges, basically. We talked about it here and saying that he's going to concede certain facts in the case, right? Again, when you're in court, you're going to present your facts, and usually you want to have a jury decide. But he conceded that this happened, that happened, and this happened, which is basically that he told lies on these ladies and was broadcasting, on national television, these type of rumors and innuendos that destroyed their lives, right? Their reputations. And in so many ways, it's never been the same. So what we had just happen is the judge, Beryl Howell, I looked it up because I knew an attorney from down here by the same name. I was like, oh my God, are they a judge in DC now? But Beryl Howell, in a 57-page ruling, said to Mr. Giuliani, who had been breaking her order after order and telling him what not to say in public and not to intimidate and other things that he had to hopefully dutifully follow, he wasn't following. So what she has entered is a default judgment in favor of the plaintiffs. Break that down. What does that mean? That means he has been found liable, or because this is a civil case, you would say guilty of or liable for the behavior that has been alleged. So now, instead of proving up his case before a jury, that part is over. Judgment has been rendered, right? So default, you are guilty of what the allegations are. So now it moves forward to the second phase. If it was a criminal case, you'd go to the penalty phase, basically how much time would you serve. But now this is about damages. In civil court, we talk about, again, who's at fault, right? If you're at fault or not. And then if you are found to be at fault, how much are the damages worth? So she has now moved this forward, and Mr. Giuliani has until September 20th to turn over how much basically he's worth. His financial records are due to the court. He's been dipping and diving and skating and not turning it over to the judge. And this judge has kind of had it up to here, right? So he must do that. And so the damages portion, right, where the jury will now decide how much these ladies will be rewarded, is now what the next phase will be. So he has basically run out of luck with this judge and has been, again, playing with fire and not listening to the parameters he has set. So she went to basically the end of the road real quick, was like, guess what? Default judgment against you, Mr. Giuliani. We're moving to damages. So this is a heck of a blow for him. He has to comply again, or he will be sanctioned yet again. But hats off to these ladies to this lawsuit and bringing their case forward and having a record that he did do something that was completely wrong to them in terms of lying on them. And the libel case now moves on to the damages portion where the jury will decide. And again, how much they've asked for. I don't think they asked for a specific amount. It won't be actual damages, which is actually what did it cost you in terms of like your job and not being able to go to work and those type of things. What gets into those millions, if it goes there, is punitive damages, right? which are open to interpretation. So I'll just stop there. But yeah, this is a big motion forward for Ms. Moss and Ms. Freeman. So Mr. Giuliani takes another blow.
Well, I mean, and I'm glad, I'm so happy, Suzette, that you were able to like break that down and cover what this case entails, because I think a lot of us didn't know what all that meant by this defamation lawsuit. Just to throw in a couple extra details on what Suzette said, that this judge had also, Judge Beryl Howell said that Giuliani and his business entities must pay more than $130,000 in attorney fees.
So that's
An
part
attorney,
of the collecting, yes, but we're going to get to
an attorney needing an attorney. Yes. But here's the statement from the two sisters that were the target of his lies. They said, quote, "Nothing can restore all we lost, but today's ruling is yet another neutral finding that has confirmed what we have known all along, that there was never any truth to any of the accusations about us, and that we did nothing wrong. We were smeared for purely political reasons, and the people responsible can and should be held accountable." That's coming from the Associated Press, folks, as we look at this story. But the fact that they had to prove the lies that he has been sharing, that he has been telling, and going back to the original part of this case, those Black women, mother and daughter, how much they have had to endure being the target, not just from Giuliani, even Trump himself.
Yep, the former president.
Even Trump himself. And this is what we shared the other day. Was it yesterday? Well, see, the day we went to it. Yeah, it's like shared Monday or Tuesday, talking about your guy, Harrison Floyd. He was the go-to guy. He was the in-between. They send a Black man to get two Black women to cheat and lie for Trump. That's what the director of Blacks for Trump did.
Another defendant, the publicist as well.
The publicist, right?
And I think he was a reverend that was one of the co-defendants as well, like a pastor that went down, try to pressure them. Yeah.
This is crazy.
It's really
this is absolutely crazy. So Giuliani is getting what he is due, and I'm not crying no crocodile tears over here at all. Look, I know we got to take another pause. Let's take a break. When we come back, crew, I want to get your take on this as we talk about this latest decision coming down from Judge Beryl Howell about Rudy Giuliani losing that defamation lawsuit case against two Black Georgia workers. What is that? What would you like to say on this? Speak to me, talk to me, let me know what your thoughts are around this. Post your comments in our YouTube chat under Roland Martin, and let's continue the conversation on the other side with Suzette Speaks and you. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right. All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We're talking about former mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani, losing the defamation lawsuit against two Black Georgia workers who said that he made their lives hell, a living hell, folks. Talking about the level of harassment and the targeting of lies and just putting out false narratives about who they are and what they have done with the votes during the 2020 election, presidential election season. Folks, that's the picture of our sisters, Ms. Shay and Ms. Ruby Freeman. Keem, let's make that picture a little bit bigger. I want folks to see that for us, please, bro. That way they can get an understanding of how serious of a situation this is. And this is one of the very few cases, and I want to bring my sister Suzette Speaks back into the frame here. Suzette, this is probably one of the very few cases, right, where we actually see civilians being targeted. Like out of all the stuff related to Donald Trump and to his people, his associates, this case here kind of sets a different precedent in terms of how far Trump and his allies will go to just try to keep some level of power. You know what I'm saying? Like the other stuff relating to Trump is more, and I don't want to just gloss over it because it's extremely serious, but it's more of an institutional assault rather than just personal assault. And maybe, I don't know whether it's because no one else decided to speak up, and whereas these two Black women have the courage and the strength to do it, to speak up against Trump, and maybe that was the case. But this, to see a level of personal attack that we see these two sisters have undergone, especially in a state like Georgia, is incredible. So have you noticed that though, that this is, I mean, outside of the Stormy Daniels thing, that's a whole different conversation. But I'm saying in terms of relating to this election situation, a lot of Trump and Giuliani and whatever and all of their peoples were doing, were trying to deal with political officials. But in this one particular case, Trump was involved, Giuliani was involved, Harrison Floyd was involved in harassing two Black Georgia workers. Just the two Black. They didn't do this in other states, according to the records. This didn't happen in other states. It happened in Georgia. So I think that this takes the case even to a higher level, because as much as we talk about how some people say, oh, Trump is all pro-American, I don't see it.
Mm-hmm. I get your point, and I do understand the difference you're drawing with it being like a personal attack on on these two individuals, and especially because they are Black women. A lot of people will say it reeks of what we call misogynoir, which is that anti-Blackness as it relates to women specifically, knowing that they were easy targets to paint as something that in a kind of historical context would allow for them to go to the lengths that they went to disparage and file meritless and vicious, statements about them and make those type of statements. I will, though, add on that the January 6th case that Fani Willis is bringing forward, as well as what the special prosecutor Jack Smith is bringing forward, is just as important, because we have to call it what it was. It was a coup on our government. This man wanted to stay in office even though he wasn't duly elected. So he was going to pressure state by state, frivolous lawsuit by frivolous lawsuit, individuals, both in the political arena, as you addressed, as well as these individuals who were just volunteering. But because of what I think what you're saying, what they look like, made them easier targets for him.
And guess what?
And his minions. So it is just as important to say, yes, what Fani Willis has laid out in her lawsuit is that you, sir, Mr. Trump, try to, in fact, overthrow, not just, and she's saying the Georgia election, but in fact, the election of the United States, to say, because we did not win and we want to stay in power and we ought to stay in power, we're going to knowingly lie, mislead, distribute the most propaganda we can to people for years, and they didn't think they were going to be held accountable for it. So the fact that it's all come to a head and that these ladies put it down in a lawsuit and said, no, what you did was wrong and illegal, and you're going to be held accountable for it. I'm glad they were brave enough, not only to say they were lying on us. They changed my life. I think about their testimony in front of the Congressional January 6th, Select Committee, thinking about what their lives have been like. They're afraid to say their names and out loud in public and go to supermarkets and go to places in case they might be recognized, because people get radicalized very easily. But to think, I think they go hand in hand, Farajii, to look at who they thought they could pick off as low-hanging fruit and use as a kind of catalyst for whatever base they felt like they were talking to and wanting to maintain power with, so that they can forward their agenda. It's just sick. Again, the bravery of these ladies speaking up both during the select committee hearings as well as filing this in district court is amazing. It needs to be put on record what you did, sir. You need to be found liable for it. And now that we have a default judgment, you need to pay for it. Their lives were turned upside down because of you. Can you imagine just going to volunteer and count votes?
That's what I'm saying. That's the crazy part about it.
It's crazy.
And that's the crazy part about it, right? And folks are saying like something as simple and a civil exercise of participating in the voting process and election day. And, folks are always encouraged to get involved, not just vote, but to volunteer your time to be an election poll worker, right? I've done election poll work, for the state of Maryland. So it's like you thinking, okay, this is going to be a long day. It's going to be a crazy day in terms of dealing with people. But the last thing you would expect is that your name would come out from the president of the United States and his lawyer, that you would get harassing phone calls and crazy ass visits from his team. And then your name is thrown up into national news and put into conservative spaces online where people are just demonizing you, are just crapping on you for simply doing your job, right? And then this level of voter suppression to this degree. And then you wonder why people people wonder why don't people get involved? You know what I'm saying? Now, it doesn't mean that this happens all the time. It just goes to show you how far Trump would go and his peoples would go to keep that power in place. So, I mean, their story was one of the most compelling testimonies from the January 6th hearing. I will never forget their story, Suzette. Yeah. One of the most compelling testimonies. And the fact is that he thought that he was going to beat up on some black women, some older black women and her daughter. And they ain't going to say nothing. Nobody going to. Boop. Guess what happened, brother? Guess what happened? See you in court. Yeah, see you on Capitol Hill.
And
I'm getting that ass.
The vulnerability that black women experience when they step forward in the political arenas, the attacks are a little bit different. The storylines that are created around them, they're not competent. They're not doing their job. I'm thinking about here in Florida, Monique Worrell that we just spoke about, that was suspended by Ron DeSantis. And the attacks, again, have this kind of, misogynistic undertone to them when they are selecting black women for attack. There's an added layer of, vitriol and vulnerability and kind of dog whistle language that likes to play on racial tropes and stereotypes. And again, you don't see that with everyone else necessarily who's in the, the bullseye, so to speak. And again, that adds that layer. Fani Willis talks about, she's never been called the N-word more than when she, started to research and now has openly, filed charges after Georgia jurors saw that there was enough information given to them, and enough evidence to put these folks forward for breaking the law. It's not Fani Willis breaking the law. She's looking at the evidence, and now we're going to see the Georgia legislature try to invoke and put into place new laws to limit her power yet again. And we're seeing the same things around the country. You're talking about rogue prosecutor. No, it's prosecutors that are doing their job, but your team is not, being held accountable. And because they are by certain people, you want to now change the rules and now, quote, blame them as being, quote, radical. But you see, again, I agree with your initial point that a special type of criticism is levied for Black women that you don't see for other groups.
Absolutely. Karen Connor, you checked in and said Ms. Shea and Ms. Freeman should sue Trump, Giuliani, and all who conspired in the defamation. They should sue for libel, slander, defamation, personal injury, etc. They suffered terrible harm. I'm telling you, if that was like my sister and my grandmother or something like that, it would be crazy. It would be crazy. I would be at every damn hearing. You hear me? I would be at every damn hearing. Every time they talk about Trump, my Black self would be right up in that joint. Like, what's up? Like, nah, man, you're not going to keep doing this. And you're not going to make people be afraid to just do something that this country said that we should do, which is to get involved in the electoral process. Anastasia Pageant, you said that's why Atlanta, Georgia, and Fulton County Jail is waiting on them since these women went through a lot now. The Queens of Atlanta, now that family members are waiting on them in that jail. Lori, thank you so much, Anastasia. Lori, you checked in and said the president needs to hurry up and send money for help of those texts. Residents to get Georgia back to normal. Important major trial coming up. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's incredible, the amount of effort that this situation has caused. And I think it speaks volumes. And even after all of this, we always talk about it, Suzanne. People are still going to vote for this dude, right? People are still going to vote for this dude because everybody seems to be under this delusion that Trump would never throw me under the bus. And as one of our culture crew members said the other day, you got so many people under the bus ain't even touching the ground at this point. It just got so many people. He throws everybody. Once he uses you, all right, on to the next. He just, you know what I'm saying?
Record.
And look, we're talking about the life of those two sisters. Can you imagine the life of the people of those 18 other people that got caught up in this indictment? They work and these are old people. These are older people. These ain't young people. You imagine you worked all your life to get to a certain position, to get to a certain status, to earn a certain amount of money. The president of the United States tapped you for something. And you might be, oh my gosh, this is a great situation, only to get indicted in your 60s and 70 years old.
I know. And these are really highly skilled and really respected, like lawyers. It's really
like lawyers and accountants and political people. And you get all the way up to this. You got grandchildren, your life is all good. And then you get caught up with this guy. And then at 70 years old, your ass is holding up, has a mugshot.
And looking at some serious time.
Looking at serious time. Don't even think about your legacy. Your legacy gone. Your respect gone. Your family embarrassed. I mean, at 60, 70 years old, we work, you know what I'm saying? You get caught up and no one had the presence of mind to be like, this guy is crazy. This is wrong. We're not going to get involved. No one had the presence of mind. Everybody like, oh, he's right. He's right.
We'll go along with the lie. That's what they said. Knowingly, that's what the indictment is scathing. Knowingly calling up Brad Raffensperger, the people in Arizona, in other states that they swore they could kind of get the folks who were on their side to do wrong.
Right.
Find these votes. No, y'all, we actually won. Will send us the basis. Well, we don't really have the basis. You can help us find the basis, can't you? It was out of control. This is stuff that we talk about in terms of coup d'etats in other countries. But it was tried here on American soil.
And look, let's add to that the irony of Rudy Giuliani getting indicted on the RICO when the man helped to create the RICO?
Exactly. How far we've fallen.
Come on, man. I mean, you got to. I mean, I'm serious. This is the stuff I like to think about. It's like, I wonder what they think about when Rudy Giuliani, I don't care how much you play tough Tony in front of the cameras. When you go home at night, see that when you go home at night and you put your head down on that pillow and you think about your life, I know Rudy Giuliani probably like, I cursed the day that I met this joker.
And when he started talking about these black women like that, he never thought this day would come. That his meritless and malicious lies would be held accountable. He thought he could just get up there on a camera and say whatever about these innocent people. And because they were black and because they were women, I would presume, my own thoughts, that he never expected this type of accountability. But now you got to pay up. Now what?
You got to pay up now. Pretty Brown Mimi 726, you checked in real quick. I want to get some crew member thoughts. Mimi, you said, how did Trump get those two black people to threaten Mama Ruby and Shay?
I'm not laughing. This is a serious matter. This is a serious matter. Can you imagine?
Wait a minute, you said this is a serious matter.
I'm not gonna laugh, but the more I think about it, the more ridiculous it is. They call you up for Chicago, sis, and tell you, come on down here. You jump into this car, you go find them. It's recorded. What are we doing?
Again, you didn't have the presence of mind.
And principles got to come into play.
And you didn't have the presence of mind and be like, wait a minute, something don't feel right about this.
No,
and you start harassing two sisters.
They think that he's the God. It's crazy.
It's absolutely insane. Real Brooklyn, you said, Farajii, we must remember that for Trump to tap these dudes for specific jobs, there must be a reason why. It can't be because they lived honest. You live by the lie, you die by the lie. Well, Real Brooklyn, my God, thank you so much. Look, we got to take a quick pause. I ain't got no crocodile tears for Rudy Giuliani.
Just wait for the evidence.
Hey, I wonder who gonna run the full page ad on him and the lies of his people.
Where they gonna get the money to pay? You see that brother still in jail?
That man is still in jail. They got a bond hearing set for him, but I don't know where he gonna get his money. And they left that man in the lurch. They just left him out there. Boom. Trump got 80 lawyers. I tell you, that man go through more lawyers than we go through underwear. That man got lawyers upon lawyers, and he can't even loan you one.
He said, it's my money, not your money, to Giuliani, to the Black Voices for Trump, to a president or founder, all of them. It's really sad. A lot of them are going to struggle through this. And he is, again, showing, there's a different set of rules. And you thought you was like him and he would have your back. But it seems as if you're kind of on your own on this one.
Hey, look. If they try to come out, if Trevion Cooley, the other sister that's involved in this, you know how they try to rebrand themselves and then they're going to come out. If they come out of this, if they don't go to jail and they have a chance to rebrand themselves, you don't get a pass. Man, you don't get a pass. You don't come back and be like, well, yeah, because Trump is wrong.
No. I'm looking at
you said it. No.
I can't wait till they start pointing fingers at them because that's what I think is going to start happening.
Right. Y'all know how to do.
They said it. They did that on their own volition, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Wait till they turn their back.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's jump into the second hour. Let's talk about this. So we're talking a little bit more about Trump. The question that I've been asking is finally being asked by other folks, man. I'm telling you. How can this man who has gone through 4 indictments, now 2 impeachments, how is he able to get onto the ballot to be considered a real candidate for the president of the United States? Well, guess what? We're going to talk about what one state is doing, and Republican leadership is saying, this may not fly well. The question is, will this spread to other states and across the country? Should Trump be on the ballot for 2024, folks? That's the question. That's the big culture convo we got up next for you. Stay with us. That discussion is coming up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we're about to jump into the second hour, second half of the show. And very quickly, we just want to let you know, remind you that your support is needed here at Black Star Network as we are putting out content each and every day, all the time, where we're having conversations or at least showing you what's happening all around this country to challenge various systems and ideologies and whatnot. So your support makes all the difference in the world. Go to our homepage at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media. Follow me, yours truly, Farajii Muhammad, on social media. And let's continue to support the work that we're doing. Also, folks, if you don't know, we are streaming in a number of different places. We're streaming, of course, on our home website at blackstarnetwork.com. You can find us also right there at the bottom. You can find us on Amazon News, on your Fire TV, Plex TV. We're also streaming on Facebook, on YouTube. We're streaming a lot of different places. And so we want to make sure that folks continue to get this news and this information, this content, as we have these cultural and political, social conversations about what's happening with Black America, and most importantly, what's happening with these things as it impacts Black America. So your support is needed. Make sure you tell your friends and family as well. And if you want to jump into the conversation right now as we go into the second half of the show, you can do so. Go to Roland Martin's YouTube page, folks, and that's where you'll find the Culture Crew, our chat that is just heating up every time we turn on the computer, every time we turn on that camera. Folks are checking in from all across the country, in some parts of the world, as they are joining us in the conversation. So you can do the same thing. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure y'all subscribe. Make sure you support us and become one of the Bring the Funk fan club members. We would love, love, love to get your support. All right, folks, let's jump into this other conversation. Got my sister, attorney and TV host Suzette Speaks joining me, of course. And Suzette, as we've been talking about Trump, the bigger question is a question that I have been pushing, Suzette, the question you have been asking the question of, right? We could, because this is a question that I think challenges and really tests the idea of, or they call the American experiment of democracy, which is, should a man like Trump, who has 4 indictments now, who has been impeached twice, who brings all of this extra baggage to the table, should he even be allowed legally? Should he even be considered eligible to be a legitimate candidate for the presidency of the United States? Well, guess what? The state of New Hampshire is reviewing this situation because they are looking at some one part of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, and I'm sure you know this, Suzette. But guess what? This is not Democrats having this conversation. These are actually Republicans in the state of New Hampshire who have been quarreling over whether Trump should be potentially left off the state's 2024 primary ballot. The legal theory, here's it is. And King, let's post that, please, bro. The legal theory in question, this is from USA Today, takes aim at Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which says no one who has engaged in insurrection or rebellion or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof is allowed to hold public office. Some have argued that Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election and his actions before and during the Capitol attack on January 6, 2021 fit that description, that definition, excuse me. It's an argument that has quickly picked up steam in the must-win Granite State. New Hampshire Secretary of State David Scanlon has requested legal guidance from the New Hampshire Attorney General's office, which is, quote, carefully reviewing the legal issues involved. Scanlon and Attorney General John Formella said in a joint statement on Tuesday. Now, it also says, but the officials clarified they have not taken any position on whether the former president and current GOP frontrunner will be on the ballot in New Hampshire. Should Trump be on the ballot for 2024? All right, so Suzette,
well,
we know that politically and ethically we could talk about that. We've talked about that. Now it's getting down to the legal precedent of this.
Right.
Does this piece of this amendment, the 14th Amendment, this section of the 14th Amendment, does this carry the weight that this state may use to take Trump off the ballot? Do they have a case here?
Well, it is very clearly stated. And again, I have referenced this in our previous conversation. I think it was last week when we talk about, the possibilities of Mr. Trump being on the ballot or just taken off the ballot by virtue of law, right? As a matter of law, it would be against the law for him to be on the ballots. This is a provision that has been written about by constitutional law scholars and professors around the country. So now we see, actual application by, again, not Democrats. This is the Republican Party in New Hampshire stepping forward to say, well, this is in our Constitution of the United States. It came about and was added during and after the Civil War, right? When we had a secession of the South that came about and basically fighting against the United States as a whole. So they were basically looking at the time, because I guess during the writing of this provision, and which a lot of the courts, again, who will interpret this, will look at what was the intent at the time that the law was written. So it was looking at a lot of the Confederate folks who now wanted to be president, wanted to run, and now, we're looking at the possibility of taking back control as being welcomed back into the Union, and should they be allowed to run at the time. So with that context in mind, we're looking at the cases through a different lens, because as a matter of law, the case in Georgia and the case in DC that Jack Smith, again, has brought forward in front of Judge Chutkan become the even more important pieces of the puzzle to prove what the 14th Amendment has laid out. Now, this is a matter of interpretation for Farajii. That's why even before the show, I told you, to say definitively, yes, what his behavior was does fit the insurrection definition. It would be, to me, a clearer road if there was a conviction in a court of law that sought to kind of put a firm, what should I say, exclamation point on this has been found by a judge and a jury that, the behavior fits what in fact insurrection is. So right now it's a bit theoretical. That's why they can't move on it. They have to seek guidance from the Attorney General. I would not be surprised if lawsuits are then filed, right, in state court. And it probably will, and just, the matter of the way these things work, move its way up the state courts to the Supreme Court of that state in New Hampshire. And then we'll see where it goes from there. I'm thinking way long term, because if this is found, say, in the state court, the highest court in New Hampshire to be, yeah, this is true, he's, say, convicted for argument's sake in another state, or they don't wait on that and they say, well, by virtue of what we think the facts are of his behavior, he can't be on the ballot in this state. Here come the lawsuits. And then we can get more clarity, court by court, up the ladder, you appeal, and you get to the highest court. I think it might actually end up at the Supreme Court eventually, because
I think so too.
Goes unchallenged. And again, we have a very conservative court. So in my mind, immediately, I was like, whoop, if this gets to the Supremes, how will they rule when we have such a conservative leaning court? Do we get people who are objective and look at the facts and see if the president, fits the insurrection, elements for him to be excluded? I don't know. Now, the GOP, some of their members there in New Hampshire are arguing that let the people decide. They're trying to take off the people's will off the ballot, for example, and not give them the choice to make. So that's a weaker argument, in my opinion, but it's very strong. Like I said, I've been reading about it more in law journals, but this is the first real application of it. So it's going to be tested. And again, we'll see if the Attorney General, they just punted, here, it's in your court now. Tell us what you think, right?
Absolutely.
So and then I think if they do make a ruling on it, it will be, challenged in court, and then we'll go from there. But I think there's a strong case to be made that his behavior, as we know, throughout the debacle of the coup d'etat that was tried and on January 6th after the 2020 election, a strong argument can be made that Mr. Trump, in fact, was a part of an insurrection. So we'll see what New Hampshire has to say about it.
It's going to be big. And Alvin Richardson, you checked in as well, and welcome to the crew, Alvin. You made the mention that they're also looking at this same question in the state of Arizona.
Everywhere.
So now, and Janelle, you posted something very quickly. I know we have to take a quick pause. But Janelle, I want to say, you said this, Janelle, you said Republican constitutional scholars have made solid argument, but it's up to each state top elected official, i.e. Secretary of State or Attorney General, to block Trump off the ballot. So it's a number of people, but it's a number of states, and it might catch steam, folks. It might build the momentum. Look, I'm saying to us, now people are saying, well, we presume that Trump is going to be the Republican nominee for whatever reason. I'm not making that presumption, Suzette. I'm not making that presumption.
He's still
leading now, but see, March 2024 is around the corner.
Yes, that is true.
And for those who don't know, that's the trial date.
One of the many.
One of four. And look, they're talking, and I saw this yesterday. They are actually, these states are talking to each other about when to set the trial, so that way they don't mess up the trial schedule for other states, man. They're trying to literally, in some cases, I'm telling you, they're trying to get the trials in before the election.
Yeah.
Now, how is the GOP going to handle that when you got a Republican convention, right? You got all of these things that you got to put into place and you still got debates. And Trump has even indicated that he might not show up at the next Republican debate. So here's you got your front runner in legal trouble. He ain't showing up with debate because he ain't got no plan for America other than what he left off at from 2016. And now you got to deal with all of this. We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's get them some more of your comments, crew. And I'd love to hear your take on it. Should Trump be on the ballot for 2024? How do Black America respond to this? Because we can't assume that he's going to be the guy. If he's the guy, what was going to be the response? If he's not the guy, and we look at a guy with that crazy ass Vivat Ramaswamy, then we got to look at that situation. But how should Black America move on this situation? How should constituents take a look at this situation? Crew, I want to get your thoughts on this. Stay with us. More conversation about this on the other side, right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Very quickly, Suzette, let me bring my sister Suzette back into this. Before we even continue the conversation, I got to give a big shout out because this is why I love the Culture Crew, Suzette. Mm-hmm. Big shout out to the Culture Crew, man. First and foremost, we got another brand new member, Daphne O'Neal, welcome to the Bring the Funk Fan Club Level 1. Thank you so much. Tina, let's give Daphne just a little something to show our love and appreciation.
You're rocking with the best.
Yay, Daphne.
That's right, Daphne. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daphne. And look what my man Vincent Morales did, where he gifted 5 Roland S. Martin memberships. And he gifted them. There we go. My man Vincent, Vincent always talking about how he loves this show. And I see your comments, Vincent, and I appreciate you, man, so much. Thank you so much for gifting those 5 folks this phenomenal membership where they can watch this content and be a part of the Culture Crew and the BSN family. So to Linnell and Ariel, infamous Kiki, thank you. But Vincent Morales coming in big and strong with the membership. Thank you. There we go. Man, oh man, folks, make sure y'all continue to support us here on the Black Star Network, Roland Martin Fan Club, Bring the Funk Fan Club, and your support will not go unappreciated here on the culture. All right, so very quickly, talking about support, we've been talking about should Trump be on the ballot for 2024. New Hampshire is up for consideration. We already talked about it. Alvin Richardson, another crew member, he said Arizona is looking at. You said also, Suzette, that other states are looking at this situation, right?
It's inevitable. It's inevitable because it is a constitutional premise. It's not a state.
Because this is not about. This is not just and I want to just to be very clear. This is not like an emotional, personality-driven effort. We're talking about ethics. We're talking about legal action or illegal action. We're talking about things that is quantified or it can be measured and quantified in the space of law, right?
Absolutely.
To see if this man can do it. Because there's no way to work. And I know the Constitution is broad. We all understand it. But the Constitution was written so many hundreds of years ago.
Right.
So it's, there's got to be a consideration of that. Like, you just can't be any type of person to hold the seat of the president of the United States. You can't be a rapist and a murderer. I mean, the line has to be drawn somewhere. Mm-hmm. And Suzette, I don't know how that would pan out legally, because the Constitution doesn't get into those type of details of the qualifications of president.
Well, it does. But, like I said, this speaks to certain behavior that one can argue that Mr. Trump has already displayed. And I just wanted to clarify. I'm not saying that he needs to be convicted in order for it to match the behavior of what the law says of the 14th Amendment. I'm just saying, think about it in the reverse. There would be a stronger case against if he is not convicted in Georgia, right? So all I'm saying is that there may be a little bit more weight in terms of the evidence that is presented in New Hampshire if these cases do kind of go against the president, the former president. But looking at law, this is always open to interpretation. So again, there are two sides that can be argued, but again, where is the weight lying? And many would argue the weight is more leaning towards the behavior that, there's evidence of, that he has, been recorded, been seen. Eyewitness testimony has verified that he participated in what was to be an overthrow of an election of the president of the United States because he wanted to remain in power. So there's a strong argument. Again, I just wanted to clarify that I didn't mean to suggest that there had to be convictions in these cases, but I'm just saying there would be a stronger argument made. But yeah, it's open. That makes sense. But they have to bring the case. They gotta file the lawsuit.
I mean, you that makes sense, because we're talking about two different things. We're talking about what happened on January 6th, and then we're talking about what happened with the national election. What happened with January 6th, I think all of us can say without shadow of doubt, that was an attempted coup of the United States of America, right? That was what it was, right? When we look at it. What happened with this election case with District Attorney Fani Willis down in Georgia, talking about that level of interference. Both of these things undermine the quote unquote democracy. Both of these actions. So you're talking about two very serious things where you have a physical, and then you have this other thing in terms of harassment, in terms of making that call to Raffensperger down in Georgia, all of that. Like those 2 points, and this is what this man is being indicted for. Not even throwing in the fact that he had classified documents. Apparently that's what presidents do sometimes. They take stuff and then they have to return it. But these are things that I would think would be paramount in terms of undermining the stability of democracy. And I think it's going to be a very, very serious question. And one of the crew members even brought it up, Suzette, that maybe the people need to decide. Well, but I don't know how that would happen.
I think, and I forget who made the statement about whether it be the attorneys general that kind of brings these cases. What happens is when it goes through each state, say there is one state that says he can be on the ballot and one state that says he can't. When you have a difference of ruling like that, that's when it goes to the Supreme Court, where two different states have two different opinions on, some issue of national concern is when it goes into the hands of the Supremes, right? Or making its way up through the federal courts. But we are right now, it's very speculative right now. That's why I'm like, we can suggest what may happen, but I'm just grateful that there are Republicans that are putting country over party and are not, just aligning themselves with the Trump talking points so many did during the 2020. Like, they go hand in hand. The January 6th was to overthrow the national election. It was to try to go state by state in all the swing states that he swore he was going to win, especially Georgia. How dare he have not won Georgia? That was his stomping ground. Those are his people, right? Something must have gone wrong. So it is kind of like a continuation among lawsuits. Of course, like you said, the documents case is a little bit different. He should have just given it back and it wouldn't have been a case. And looking at what's going on in New York. But yeah, the idea that someone could stand in front of the American people and say, still vote for me. It just shows like the audacity and the delusion that I don't think everybody in the party now feels. I feel like, again, there's a wake up call, a clarion call that is coming about. When you look at national polls, many feel, a majority, more than 50%, don't think he should be running. But again, that's not who elects the nominee. It's the base. It's the registered Republicans that vote that make that determination. So I think as a broader voting electorate, there is a wake-up call that these cases have brought forward. But again, I'm glad to see that in New Hampshire, it is their party that is saying, I like my party, I stand with their principles, but this is a principle that we are also, and a standard that we're also going to hold ourselves to, which is that if you try to overthrow your own government, you probably shouldn't be on the ballot. Thank you, 14th Amendment. So it's as plain in English as we could put it. We have to be very clear as to why this would disqualify him by law, but we still—
That's what I'm talking about, Suzanne.
We still have a process here to follow.
That's what I'm talking about. That is the exact point I was going to bring up, because it should not be based upon the come to Jesus moment for Republicans to say, you know what, maybe this guy should not be on the ballot. The law needs to supersede that consciousness, that awakening, that moment of clarity that Republicans need to have. We shouldn't have to wait on that. It should be and I'm saying, of course, it may not say this in the Constitution, but it should just simply be that whether it's the Attorney General, whether it's the Secretary of State of any of these states, should be like, this is wrong according to our law. That you see what I'm saying? Where the law supersedes the quote unquote goodness. That's why we have certain laws in place. That's why this whole system of democracy is set up on this idea of checks and balances. Because why? Human beings, we are fragile in some respect, right? When it comes to these type of affairs. And what the law does is that it sets a standard, a metric that we can measure our own behavior by, where we don't have to hope that somebody gets it in order for things to move forward. The law is there to quote unquote protect folks, and it's supposed to be there to consider the best interests of the American people, right? So it shouldn't be based on the benevolence. It shouldn't be based on somebody, what I mean? Just like,
imagine that. Like,
all that stuff doesn't matter. And see, that's what parties want to try to do, whether you're talking about Democrats or Republicans. I don't give a damn about your come to Jesus moment, man. That's not right. It's not the law. So therefore, you're breaking the law, and that makes you ineligible. But the parties, especially the Republicans, they will make it seem like, well, we decided because this was the best interest of the American people.
It's the best interest of their party because he got a chokehold still on that base. So that's the problem.
And guess what? Okay, you make him the nominee. You're going to have to eat that. You're going to have to eat that. And look, this is what I don't understand about the GOP right now. If you're pushing forward some guy, whether it's Trump's, whether it's Vivek, or whoever the case may be, trust and believe the blood will be on your hands, man. And this is for both parties. It's not for just Republicans, it's for Democrats. The American people, we deserve better. We deserve better leadership in this country. And the last thing we need a bunch of criminals that are claimed at this point. What's the point? What's the heck? Why do you think institutions, according to Pew Research Center, there are a number of institutions, Supreme Court, the executive branch, the legislative branch, the hope and trust that the American people have in these branches of government has actually declined tremendously over the past 30 to 40 years. Pew Research Center talks about that. We do not trust it. You know why? Because we want to make laws or do things in accordance to people's benevolence rather than doing things because it's the law, it is the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, or more importantly, it's not in the interest of the American people as a whole, not as a segment of the people, but as a whole. And when you start to try to supersede the law versus your personal politics, now we're getting into a danger zone. That's what I just see. It's a dangerous place to be. Because guess what? You bring us into that situation today, and guess what? Your personal politics change because of some other factor tomorrow, and now we're in a shit show.
Yeah, that's why we have to have rule of law across the board, no matter who you are. That's why these cases are very important. It doesn't matter who you are. We all should be adhering to the same law, and it should be applied equally among us all. We got to take a break. We got to
take a quick pause. And what do they always say to us, Suzette? Mm-hmm. No one is above the law. No one is above the law. And the Republican Party is supposed to be the party of law and order, but y'all breaking laws. I get it. It's the party of our law and the way we want to make order. Oh, okay. I forgot to get that memo. I forgot that was in the memo, Suzette. You probably got it too when I got it. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. All right, we got to take a quick pause. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We've been asking a big question. Should Trump be on the ballot for 2024, considering all of his legal battles and issues? The state of New Hampshire is reviewing this as they're looking at possibly using the 14th Amendment, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, as the basis for removing Trump from their primary state ballot for the 2024 election season. But they are still reviewing it. They have not come to any decision about this just yet. But it has opened the conversation up once again about the fact of one man being above the law and still being eligible to be in the highest seat in the land, the highest seat of power and influence, which is the president of the United States. So we will have to see. But I was thinking about this point very quickly. Because I always do that. I always want to make sure that as we have these conversations, that we throw out there some sense of a solution to these big conversations. And it made me think about the work of Black leaders historically and even up to this present day. Black leadership has often taken the stance that in order to make America better, and I'm speaking of like a Dr. Martin Luther King or any other major Black leader, they became a threat when they started to show America to herself. And this is what I mean by that. When Dr. King talked about the Vietnam War, when he's talked about the fact that America was supposed to be this beacon of light and hope and peace for the world, but that we were in the process of being at the source or at the of having a war in Vietnam, he called America back to her ideals, to the principles that are laid out in both the Constitution and other founding documents of this country, to make sure that America sees herself as she is, not who she thinks she is. And I think that's the role that constituents have to take today, right? Looking at it, all your major Black leaders, one of the common threads I see is that they showed America who she really is, not who she is branded out to be, not who she is hoping herself to be, but they show her. And that's the threat, I believe, that comes with being the oppressed in this country. That once you rise up and you have the strength to speak truth to power and you start to show America who she really is, then you become a problem. And I think that's the stance that maybe citizens, not just Black folks, but citizens across this country can embrace on. If we are serious about making this country better, we have to speak truth to power to show the leadership in this country and even our opponents in this country, the enemies, those who want to keep us in a state of servitude, tyranny, and oppression, and slavery, suffering, and death. We have to speak truth to power and say, no, if you are supposed to be this way, then how come when it comes to this issue, you lackluster? How come you're not why can't we call you a hypocrite when you go around the world promoting yourself as the beacon of freedom, justice, and equality? Make America see herself. Don't make it great again. Sometimes you just got to make America see herself. What's your take on that, Suzanne?
Well, yeah, I think, it's very well said what you just brought forward. I tried to tell people when, we talk about voters here in my great state of Florida and across the country and why this sentiment of distrust that you just talked about of institutions is so pervasive. I tend to say that we have to really look again at a historical lens to come forward, because when a lot of these institutions were created, you and I were not in mind of these writers of the Constitution or as any, beneficiaries of the benefits of our labor, those who labored the land and made America one of the, the greatest and richest countries on this planet. We were never really in its inception thought of as people who would be inheritors of the dream. So it's really important to realize that nothing was ever given to us. It was earned, it was taken, it was demanded of. And as a part of what you're talking about, It was the marching. It was the boycotting. It was the economic power that we had when, we were all amongst each other and making sure that our dollar was floating among our community as it had to be by law, basically. And we had the village and we had one another's backs. I think there's this idea that why aren't they, and we're just talking about Trump, as politicians just doing the right thing? Why don't they just have integrity about it? Wouldn't you want Black people to be able to vote? Wouldn't you want, more access to, healthcare?
No.
You want these
No.
things, taxes in our state here, unemployment has gone up. We can't get a homeowner's insurance. People are bought and paid for. We have to realize the system, if we want to see the changes that we want in this system, we cannot be complacent or think that other people are going to do it for us, right? If we look at what you're just talking about, our forefathers have always had to rise to the occasion, speak truth to power, be vulnerable in terms of their very lives by taking a stand against, positions that, either diminished our power or downright excluded us altogether. So the idea that, we've come so far, rest in peace, John Lewis, and so many of the other warriors that keep saying the fight is still, upon us. We still have to keep pushing our congressmen. When we're talking about last week about the sheriffs, I was like, what could I have told people to do more with that rogue, sheriff's organization? I'm like, well, I would write my congressman. I did that. I would talk to local officials like my sheriff and let him know, hey, do you see this? Do you go to that kind of stuff? And what else can we do to kind of set the tone? We have to still move collectively among that we, sometimes are very uncomfortable dealing with. No one is going to, want to reproduce the great Black vote that we saw for Obama if it doesn't benefit them. So in fact, we're seeing, like I said, here in Florida, the people in power are more concerned with staying in power. We're so shocked by that. We can't be shocked by that. They want to maintain power of the institutions, a la what Trump did, because they realize, demographically speaking, they're not going to maintain power if you allow the will of the people to speak. So whether it is for you, getting involved with your local party, whether it is volunteering as the poll worker, because again, I think about this is supposed to have a chilling effect on us volunteering and becoming more civic minded or doing more, giving, a campaign donation, whatever way. They don't want you to move. You got to move like that, right? The time it would take to do some of the labor. Maybe everybody doesn't have that, right? A lot of people are trying to make ends meet, working hard, et cetera, et cetera. But whatever we can contribute, we should be doing. Because again, the system is always pushing back, right? Those in power who are not going to cede power just because it's the right thing to do to you and me. That's not what it's
right.
for. They're looking
That's
at
right.
No, I want my grandchildren to still exert the most power in this country. I want my grandchildren, what they were supposed to be answering to your you? No. So there's a fear going on, right? Economics, right? Of racial and cultural demographic things. There's so much that we have to really be vigilant of that it gets tiring. I can understand that. But like you're saying, Farajii, we don't have time to be tired. When we think about Ron DeSantis, I was just at a Democratic Party event last Friday, and the chair here was like, you got to think about, we got 22 million people in Florida altogether. Ron DeSantis won the re-election by winning 4 million votes. He got 4 million votes. When we keep saying, oh, everybody already vote, what we doing, we don't need to do, we need to do more than voting. Only 4 million people voted for him, and now he's running neck and neck with old boy for president. So we do have a lot of work to do because there are people who are disengaged and throwing their hands up and saying, you know what? And again, I know we're preaching to the choir here. However, we have to really understand that political engagement, and I want to add this too, Farajii, because I always feel like our tone can be kind of like, oh my gosh, what can we do here? We have to see it more as a privilege, and we have to frame it more as a joyful experience to be involved. Yes, there's a lot of BS. Yes, there's a lot of people who are full of BS, and we were kind of discouraged. Oh, see, there's another politician, but you go to your boss and go to your job every day, and your boss be full of BS. But you go do what you have to do in this life and pay your taxes and do all this stuff that they're still spending your money to improve the lives of somebody, to give somebody the tax break, to new home, new house. How was I say new homeowners buy? No, oh my gosh, I want to say new home buying programs or not, right? Medicaid, Now we're looking at the Biden administration being able to negotiate the prices of so many drugs that seniors have to pay out of pocket for. Now what? The $9 billion in profits coming down. So we have to align ourselves. I think that the Republicans are doing this, but we have to say as Black people, where does our agenda most likely have success of being met? Are the Democrats perfect? No. But staying on the sidelines and not voting so your boy Ron DeSantis and others around the country get in office is not the solution. So we really look at it as a form of, I'm protecting my community. I'm protecting my interests. I get to the polls because 2 generations ago they didn't. And there's a reason they're trying to keep us from doing it. If it didn't mean anything, why would they want to change rules so bad, redistrict so bad that we keep losing? Why is it that important? It's important to them. So they show up every time. But I agree with you. I think especially when we look at like, oh my gosh, this system is overwhelmingly corrupt. It can't be perfect with 300+ million people. But that doesn't mean, I don't know why we have this kind of defeatist, oh, that's why we can't do nothing about it. We shouldn't do nothing. And again, I know people watching us here don't necessarily feel that way. But
but some of us do though, Suzette.
Yeah, but I'm just saying we can't preach that. We can't.
No, I agree.
The wheels agree. And we still suffer. So we can't expect them to give us nothing. Like that's where we at. Sorry.
No, I get it. No, I trust me. I get it. And I think any action is better than no action. So whether if it's about voting, then let's do it. If it's about planning strategies or doing some, direct organizing, direct action work, let's do it. Like there has to be something. There has to be a rising up of people because we're just in that time right now. If we go through this process, and we're talking about Trump and all of this, and as we close out, take our next pause, we're talking about Trump and all of this. If this doesn't make you come up with a politic, and I tell people all the time, and I'm sure you probably tell people all the time, what is your personal politics? What's your personal view? You can't be in 2023 and say you ain't got no view. Because we go on social media and we share our thoughts, right? But your personal politics has to be not just something said, it has to be something done. It has to be put into action. And as much as we are in this kind of like double existence as Black folks, because as much as this country has done to oppress us and the history of that, at the same time, this is our home, right? If we call for the destruction of America, then what about the family members who aren't conscious yet, who aren't informed yet? You see what I'm saying?
Like we're the American dream, like everybody else.
We just want to live the American dream, but guess what? The American dream has to be redefined at this point. It cannot be the same thing of owning a house, white picket fence, 2 children, dog. Man, that thing is out the window. We're in a different space. And I think this is to your point, this is an excellent opportunity for us to redefine what being an American, what does the American dream look like? This is a perfect opportunity for us. We just have to see it. Like you said, we have to see that voting is a privilege. It's not going to be guaranteed. We have to see that the fact that this is the time for our country to get into a different space. Even though the Constitution may see us one way, we have to assert our humanity in a different way. We can redefine. I'm not with the defeatist attitude of this is all it is and this is all we can do. Hell with that. We need to redefine who we are and what this country is all about. Look, we got to take a final pause. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Check my mic there. There we go. All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Man, oh man, this is why I love Wednesdays, Suzette, because you be my pen dropping stuff. I can't even get myself together.
I get a little tongue tied. Sorry, guys.
It's all good. It's all good. Look, we got a line for. Let's close this show out on a high note. All I'm gonna say is Simone Biles.
Yes. Reigning
last week we talked about Sha'Carri Richardson, because I don't want Sha'Carri to come at me. Sha'Carri Richardson doing her thing as becoming a world champion. And what is up with these sisters doing big things? Simone Biles is showing that she is the one. Sunday night, folks, she won her 8th U.S. gymnastics title, breaking a tie with Alfred Joachim for most by a U.S. gymnast. According to USA Today, Alfred Joachim, competed back in the 1920s and 30s when rope climbing and Indian clubs were still parts of the sport. But they said, Suzette, that what Biles has done is even more impressive. Simone Biles won 4 in a row from 2013 to 2016. She took a break for more than a year following the Rio Olympics. She returned to win again in 2018 and 2019 after the world shut down because of the COVID pandemic in 2020. Then she won in 2021. And now in 2023, after taking some time off for a mental health break, she came off her mental health break, coming back better than ever and showing that she is gymnastics.
Hello, the GOAT. She ain't got a husband during the break. Jonathan Owens came back married and ready to win another one. Look, her first world all-around title was at the age of 16. She became the 7th American to hold the world's best gymnast. And to do it now, 10 years later at 26, which once upon a time with Farajii was considered old. She is redefining who participates and who we see as having the capability of maintaining that level of athleticism. When I watched this, because I watched this live, shout out to Shalise Jones and Jordan, I just thought, look at all the melanin on my screen, oh God. If you watch gymnastics as a little girl like me in the 90s, shout out to Dominique Dawes.
That was my, oh my God.
For darn near 20 years. But then you get a little bit of daylight. And people have a different idea of what a gymnast can be, far more, strong and athletic, instead of this kind of very thin and limber, very tiny kind of prototype that was given to us from the Europeans, etc. And now we're looking unstoppable. I just thought what little girls looked at when they saw these national championships where every camera shot had different melanin on different apparatuses. Look how beautiful this is to see when people are just allowed in the door. What we do, I know that's why they don't want to let us in the door. We gotta, take off for a bit because we have so much talent. I can't wait to see it on the men's side. So come on, over there. Let's go.
Hey, I'm telling you,
I should have been on gymnastics teams so we could have won world championships. But the GOAT liveth. She deserves all her flowers to be doing this again. Think about how hard it is to repeat being the best at your sport in your whole country and then in the whole world. It is just amazing. And again, she's just proving that, age is but a number. So I can't wait to see she is ready. And she makes those folks so much money. She can't stop because she's an industry around her. People, the kids, I just see young girls doing science projects about her and all this other stuff. I was like, Lord, look at this. This is amazing. So flowers. Sorry, I just talk about
I ain't got no problem. I just want to do it for the sake of time. I want to put her in, and I was going to say one thing, but I was like, no, I'm going to put this in a proper context. This sister is the Serena Williams of gymnastics.
100%.
She's the Serena Williams of gymnastics. And she's still young. You mentioned it. She's still a young woman. She still has some time, and she still got some gas in the tank to really take it all. But she is phenomenal, to say the least. So big shout out to Simone Biles for doing the damn thing and showing the world. I'm telling you, when she took that mental health break, people started to jump on her. We already know that she had to go through that tragedy of the sexual assault piece that she went, and other gymnasts had to undergo through that crazy ass doctor. But then she turned all of that pain into power, took the break that she needed, and boom, she came back out better than ever. So to your point, I'm with you all the way. She has redefined the sport, and it shows. It has power. It works. And folks, don't ever think. Look, every time I see something like this, and even when we were talking about Sha'Carri Richardson last week, is that what God has for you,
man.
Can the church say amen? What God has for you, no one else can take from you.
The doors of the church are open, y'all.
Amen. Come on, Pastor Damon. Amen.
Hallelujah. Let's go.
All right, look, we gotta jump off here. Big shout out to El Marsh for being another supporter of the Bring the Funk Fan Club Level 1. El Marsh, thank you so much. And look, we got a sister-in-law that checked in today, Suzette. Sister Karen Y. Kosher Esquire. She said, hey, y'all, this is my first time checking out the show. I'll be tuning in from now on. Come on. See, that's what we bring. We bring Black lawyers together. Hey, look, we didn't talk about this as we close out. We're streaming right on blackstarnetwork.com. President Biden actually had a conversation with lawyers from the Civil Rights, I think it was the Civil Rights Commission, but he spoke to a group of different lawyers around the issue of civil rights. So maybe we can get into a little bit more conversation about that next week. But folks, I want you to do your due diligence. I want you to go and follow my sister Suzette Speaks on all of her platforms. Big shout out to Suzette for reaching 5,000 subscribers.
Thank you for coming over, subbing to my channel. Love the support. You guys are amazing. I got so many new folks from this platform, so I really appreciate you, Farajii. Thank you guys so much for your support.
All right, y'all. Y'all know where to find Suzette Speaks on all social media platforms. Make sure y'all check her out on her own show, the Suzette Speaks Show. She speaks power. She speaks truth to power, and she's doing a phenomenal job representing on so many different levels. She's a political, she's an attorney, she's a host. She's just a really, really great sister.
Tired,
she's tired.
I appreciate it. Always a wonderful time here. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you, Suzette, for being so good for the culture. Appreciate you, sis.
Appreciate you. See you next week.
See you next week. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Culture Crew, I appreciate each and every one of you. Welcome to all of our new Culture Crew members. Thank you again for Vincent Morales and to El Marsh and to all of our supporters of Black Star Network. Make sure you do your due diligence. Go to blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app. Follow us on social media. Follow me, yours truly. It's the real Farajii on Instagram, at Farajii on Twitter, and on social media. You can find me. I would love to connect with you, build a community, and let's continue to keep the conversations going. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered. Big shout out to my production team as well. King Keenan, Shannon, Joel, Maddie, and Chris. Thank you. And all of you who are for tuning in. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will be back tomorrow for another exciting edition for the culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon. Peace.